Let's start with a simple exercise. Put your hand up if you use social media, whether that be browsing Instagram to see all the places you could be rather than here, or Reddit to learn all the problems from countries you've never heard about, or just to keep in touch with everyone. Now, keep your hand up if you believe that social media discussions are predominantly positive, constructive, and that it's bringing us closer together rather than driving us apart. Now, if your hand's still up, I love your optimism. But for the rest of us, online polarization is a significant challenge in social media, particularly when balancing free and open speech while still promoting constructive discourse. Current approaches predominantly focus on reactive banning, blocking, or deplatforming content when arguments escalate. This is the current ambulance at the bottom of the cliff approach, known as content moderation. As an alternate to this, I'm happy to introduce you to our work on a proactive and voluntary approach to mediating online debates through chatbots utilizing psychological-driven conflict resolution strategies. These chatbots engage in the discussion through proposing solutions, raising questions, and providing information about the online discussion topic to the debating parties in order to seek a resolution to the conflict before it escalates into potential inflammatory and hate speech. I'm Jarod Govers, and I'm presenting this alongside my supervisors of Jorge Goncalves, Eduardo Velloso, and Vassilis Kostakos from the sunny side of Melbourne, Australia. So firstly, let's lay the groundwork of the issue we want to address here. What is polarization? We define polarization in an HCI context through our prior work, which accentuates that online polarization is the, quote, temporal movement of one's beliefs and networks of interactions from a point of normalcy towards an extreme belief space. In essence, we focus on the interaction of users and the lack of ability to reach a consensus, which may include movement towards more extreme positions. But also importantly, polarization is not necessarily a bad thing. You might passionately push for McDonald's for lunch while your friends might push for KFC. This is fine. Our aim here is to highlight strategies to mediate these discussions to help promote a consensus or even a compromise on the topic. Where polarization is a problem, however, is that it creates a constant division in social media, leading to a culture that can impact mental health, with 42% of youth citing social media division and toxicity as detrimental to their mental health. We've also seen studies highlighting that increased social media use is linked to a 20% increase in clinical anxiety reports. Nonetheless, the current approach of simply deplatforming or banning speech does not address the underlying issues that cause the debate. Prior work has also highlighted narcissism as a root cause, as well as fatalism in youth due to increased social media usage due to this constant culture of fighting without resolution. So our study tests 5 different chatbots across 5 online Reddit-style debates on political topics. We design our 5 chatbots based on each of the 5 conflict resolution strategies from the Thomas Kilmann conflict mode instrument, henceforth known as TKI. What Thomas and Kilmann found was that humans tend to utilize specific strategies and approaches when trying to resolve arguments. They identified that these strategies fall onto 2 axes, assertiveness and cooperativeness on a quadrant. Cooperativeness represents the degree of which an individual attempts to address the specific grievances of the opposing party. For instance, low cooperative strategies such as competing or avoiding focus on how to address the wider picture issues over targeting smaller individual disagreements. If someone was debating whether public transport should be free, a debate topic that we have in our study, and the debater claimed that it would be beneficial for elderly people, a high cooperative approach might consider a solution that fixates on the specific issues of that debater. For instance, it might push for an elderly concession. While a low cooperative approach will still try to solve the topic, but would push for an overall bigger picture societal solution. The second axis on this is assertiveness, which represents how much the individual pushes their own concerns. In our case, this represents the AI mediator's confidence and directness in its questioning and claims to achieve consensus. For instance, the mediator could attempt to strongly push or force for a solution that addresses the issue, such as the competing or forceful bot, compared to a more suggestive, timid, and questioning, accommodating bot. Thomas and Kilman identified that everyone has a preferred conflict resolution strategy that can be psychometrically measured through a validated questionnaire. So we use all of this and employ these TKI strategies across 5 mediator chatbots using prompt tuning methods on Microsoft's GPT-4 implementation. Thus, our objectives are threefold. Firstly, we test the individual strategies of the chatbots to identify which is the most persuasive, measured through the perceived argument strength score. Secondly, we seek to depolarize a reading audience of an online debate by reducing their conviction to the extremes of a political debate, essentially their personal opinion depolarization. Thirdly, we seek to reduce the audience's perception that the debaters are polarized through querying whether the audience believes that the debaters online could come to a consensus on the topic. Thus, our 3 research questions are: Research question 1. How do these strategies influence participants' perceptions of the persuasiveness of the mediator's arguments? This is our perceived argument strength score as validated in previous work. Research question 2 highlights how do the strategies influence participants' personal opinion on the debates? How do you, someone reading Reddit, for instance, and you see the mediator bot, how does this influence your opinion? And can we reduce the polarization? And thirdly, which strategy is the most effective at increasing the audience's perceived likelihood that a debate would reach a consensus? Essentially, can the two debaters come to a consensus? And we utilized a mixed methods approach for analyzing our data, consisting of generalized linear mixed models and qualitative analysis to answer these research questions. So here is an example of a transcript from our study, utilizing the highly cooperative and highly assertive collaborating TKI strategy. We collected our debate data with annotated pro or anti-topic stances from Kielo, with the top debate question being the pro stance, for instance. And we anonymized these responses and styled them towards a Reddit format for our survey. We target the polarized perceptions of the viewing audience rather than testing on the debaters themselves, as we are interested in how medias can encourage critical thinking and mitigate the culture of social media division by helping the audience believe that debaters could reach a consensus with the mediator's help. Moreover, targeting the audience's perceptions over the debaters is important as they are the larger majority, the wider viewing audience. And we do not need to assume whether the debaters are engaging in good faith or are just engaging for sport. An audience may also engage in the debate later on, thus may utilize the ideas of the mediator to help encourage bipartisan agreement or compromise on the debate topic. We target 5 topics to counterbalance with our 5 mediator strategies. These topics include current events and polarizing topics such as on COVID-19 vaccination, public transport, the Russia-Ukraine war and its refugees, bans on misinformation, and NSA surveillance. We started our study with a manipulation check on 20 participants to ensure that they could match the mediator TKI strategies with the mediator chatbots. We identify a Fleiss-Kappa score of 0.73, indicating that there was a substantial agreement between our annotators correctly matching the TKI definitions to our mediator bots, regardless of the debate topic or transcript. For research question 1's focus on argument strength, we identified that both assertiveness and cooperativeness were statistically more significant than the lower-end strategies such as averting. The distribution of the 1 to 5 perceived argument strength PAS score highlights this, indicating that TKI strategies help guide GPT-4 towards more persuasive responses, particularly with the collaborating one as seen in the orange on the chart. Likewise, we identified that TKI cooperativeness was a significant axis for personal depolarization of the audience's opinion. What this means is that strategies such as compromising on the issue, collaborating and questioning the debaters, and accommodating to both debaters' beliefs actually result in the audiences changing their mind on the subject more so than the controlled transcript alone without the mediators, thus indicating that our mediator bots are effective depolarizing agents that do not rely on censorship, since the debaters never change any of their responses. It is important to note that the debaters never actually responded to the mediator bots in this experiment. Thus, all of the opinion and perceived polarization scale changes are influenced solely by the mediator bots' responses. This is significant for research question 3, where we look at how much the audience believe that the debaters could reach a consensus. We can see that via the figure on the left, that despite only changing the mediator bot responses, there is a statistically major shift in the audience perceptions that the debaters could reach a consensus. For example, the accommodating strategy was 3 times more likely to depolarize the audience when compared to the controlled no mediator case. Uniquely, the forceful and averting low cooperative strategies performed poorly in terms of depolarization. What we found was that when a third-party mediator chatbot engages in a debate with an assertive and dominant approach, the users rejected the AI's stance and became more entrenched in their beliefs. So much so that the forceful mediator actually polarized the audience and made them believe that the debaters could not reach a consensus on the debate topic more than that not even being there to begin with, even with the same debater responses. Bear in mind here that that's the only difference. Thus, the forceful chatbot alone caused polarization and a blowback effect where users doubled down and opposed the AI. Thus, there is a risk that poorly selected strategies can actually radicalize and polarize people rather than resolve grievances, highlighting the benefits but also the risks of AI chatbots in social media. So wrapping up, what are our key takeaways here? Well, our study has significant implications for human-AI interaction, as well as the application of psychological theory within social chatbots. We identified that the cooperativeness axis was significant for more persuasive arguments and for audience depolarization, with high assertiveness only being useful for argument strength. While high assertive behavior can actually cause a blowback effect in terms of polarization, where users become more polarized because of the social chatbot, thus presenting the risk of AI abuse. The key future work for this study would be to test the veracity of the AI, given that it raised questions, proposed solutions, and made claims on developing topics such as COVID-19 vaccines and the Russia-Ukraine war. So checking for misinformation in these models is always important. Furthermore, testing AI in a live debate scenario to identify the effects of emotive behavior would also highlight the robustness of our mediator bot design. Our validated media chatbots has key implications for researchers, industries, and governments. Firstly, our study presents a voluntary opt-in tool for depolarization, with a commitment to open and transparent AI development with our prompts and models available in our Kai supplementary material file. Our AI does not seek to control the discussion, as our study showed that the positive effects of encouraging consensus, even if the debaters do not engage with the bot, are still very useful. Addressing the ideas and issues in online discussions highlights AI as a social good and could be deployed as a customizable browser plugin based on one's TKI preference, a platform toggle for subreddit or forum users or moderators to use as a helping hand to help ideate and address grievances in a discussion. And like any work, we would encourage human-in-the-loop review of such models to address biases. Our findings also highlight that one's preferences towards a specific TKI strategy means that the effect of the same strategy mediator bot is higher across perceived argument strength, personal opinion depolarization, and perceived debater polarization. So if you prefer an accommodating strategy, then the persuasive impact of the accommodating media bot will be stronger. Thus, our models can be customized towards personal strategies and preferences for platforms. Overall, our mediator bots offer a useful first line of defense to address the ideas and grievances in a debate before it becomes inflammatory and derailed, where the second line of defense of content moderation is better suited. Thank you for listening to our presentation on AI-driven mediation strategies for audience depolarization and online debates. And if you have any questions, feel free to flick me an email. Have a great day.